Hey everybody, just adjusting my little headset here. This is Robert, and thank you for tuning in to the show. And yeah, hope everybody is doing well out there. Happy President's Day, I just realized. And yeah, I'm not sure how y'all feel about that, but yeah, and happy late Valentine's Day. All these holidays that are coming up, and right now we're in the midst of a pretty busy, just season where we're just starting to get back into, if we're not already completely back to work, but we're just starting to get into like, the time leading up to the Oscars and all the awards seasons and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure you don't really want to talk about any of that stuff on the show. So because you just want to see the special guest. So you've heard her, you've seen her on a lot of anime, some TV shows, and I mean, really, her resume and IMDb, like, if I were to look it up, just do a quick Google search, I probably would be here for like an hour-ish or so. So, this is Mary Long. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. And yeah, so happy to finally have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for asking me.
Yep, anytime, man. As you can see, she's in a very lovely environment on her end. So, yeah, you just gotta be, we're just into the whole, like, wintry solstice season, I suppose. And
I'm in Toronto, and in the last few days, we have had a torrential amount of snow. We have maybe, I don't know, I would say the banks look to be about 10 to 20 feet high. And,
yeah.
and it's been unusual here because we don't usually have weather like this of late. So it's nice to see sort of snowfalls like I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah, and I know that we just recently had like, a lot of rain in our area, which is something that we kind of needed after the horrific fires we had in
You bet.
January.
Well,
I
I'm
was
glad
just
you're
telling,
safe.
yeah, and I was just telling Mary about how devastating it was. But now we had mudslides, so I'm just kind of like, oh man, is this really the end time?
Well,
I'm afraid,
let's hope,
yeah.
let's think positively.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. So, yeah, I'm just kind of really happy to do this and just bring on more rain over here because we really do
Yeah,
need it. Yeah,
that would be great for you guys, for sure.
exactly. So, I guess with that said, let's just get right into this. So, I
Sure.
think we were just getting into your little backgrounds of acting. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
if you
I'm
like to
I'm
share.
surprised that you say that when you go to IMDb, you'd be here for almost an hour. Of course, when you're in the middle of a career and you just are thinking about your life as the work that you do, it's sort of the time goes by and you accumulate certain things that you just forget about. And then it's always a surprise to me that people know who you are, know what you've done, can sometimes even recite back to you those things that they remember you for. So I'm always pleasantly surprised that people are actually listening to my voice, whether it was, 25 years ago or 30 years ago or anything that I may do from now on. So um, I started as a kid. I started doing television when I was a kid, and I had a little television series of my own when I was about 8. So I've been in front of the cameras ever since I was a very young girl. And luckily, I have to touch wood. I have been fortunate enough to have a career that's lasted me a lifetime.
Yeah, because you've been in the industry since the 50s, which is honestly
That's
pretty
right.
amazing. Yeah.
That's right. And I'm hoping that my voice doesn't belie that fact. I mean, I'm hoping that perhaps I still sound young enough to do some kid cartoons.
I mean, never say never.
Never say never, absolutely. And the voiceover market has been it's changed a lot. I don't know if you've noticed this, Robert, in the last little while, but the industry has changed, and now I think we're all going to have to kind of gird our loins around AI very soon. So things will change. I don't know what the young people are thinking about that kind of sea change in our lives, but I'm sure it's there. It's going to happen.
Oh no, trust me. We're kind of in the middle of a video game strike right now, so I know
Oh,
that a lot of us are, I mean, at least here in California. I'm
mm,
not sure I haven't really been keeping I'm not really like totally up to date, up to scratch on the, recent developments, but I know that trust me, we're making our voices loud and strong about this artificial intelligence
I think
nonsense.
we have to as a society, because
Yeah,
it'll get ahead of us way before we have the opportunity to put a little bit of a break on it. I think sometimes technology can be our best friend and sometimes it can be our greatest enemy as well. So we as a society have to just band together and make sure that we have work and good work for all of our people, whether it be in voiceover or television or any kind of work, really. We have to consider what's best for the whole. And I believe in that strongly.
yeah, anytime. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, you can have AI, but you just can't really replace like a human that can give you
I don't
better
think so,
performance.
but
Yeah,
I mean, I suppose there'll be a time when they will be able to do it, but should we be able to do it is a big question.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Ask me, you ask me, because I don't, I could just go on forever about, you know, talking, yakking about all kinds of stuff. But um, I know that people might know me mostly from Sailor Moon, I guess, but I was involved in the original, I mean, not the Magna, what was it called? The Chinese, or the Japanese version. Is it Magma? No, not Magma.
I think
There's
it's manga. Yeah,
MAGA, that's it, something like
yeah,
that.
manga.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we did the very first tracks of the new sort of when it came over to the West, and I played Molly, who was Sailor Moon's best friend, and she showed up on some episodes, not all, but lots of people still remember me from that.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to Sailor Moon in a little bit, but just wanted to quickly go over some of your early television work. How would you
Sure.
say that the industry was like? Because you said that it had changed quite drastically over the last like century or so. So,
Yeah, well,
how
so
would you like it?
when you say I started in the 50s, it's true. I did my first television show in 1958. Now, I was a kid, I was a little girl, but in those days, we did live to air. So I was a little 8-year-old girl who would spend 2 days a week sort of preparing for the day when I would go into the studio and go live out to the television viewer. So the kids would come home from school at 3:30, turn their TV on at 3:45, and I would be on from 3:45 to 4 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I think it was only once a week in those days. But it would be live to air. So there was no taping before. So my performance and everything around the telecast had to be perfect. So it was a standard that was it was a pretty high standard to reach, especially for a little 8-year-old girl. The second year that we did the series, it went live to tape. So at least we had that opportunity. If we did by any chance make a mistake, we could go back because we were on tape. But by that time, I'd done it for a year and it was pretty smooth sailing. And then I did it for one more year. And then after that, the writer retired. And so that series sort of had its time. And it was called Maggie Muggins, and it was nationwide across our network, which was called the CBC and still is called the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And they have been our go to for everything from children's programming to um, drama to hockey. So they were our public broadcaster, still are. And that was how I started in the business. And then beyond that, I felt that as a kid, I didn't really have to make a decision about what I wanted to be because it seemed to have been laid out before me. And so I started doing film and television at that point. And then I took up theater, of course, in my teens and continued to have a film and television and theater career until this day. I still do film and stuff.
I also wanted to ask you too. So, before we get to the voiceover stuff, like, how
Yeah.
would you say that doing TV and film really helped you when you started, doing the voice acting work? Or just, is there really like a big, do you notice like there were like any differences between like, performing on stage or, doing TV and then going
Yeah,
into,
people
yeah.
often talk about the difference in the media, of course, and there is a difference. There's a huge difference between performance on stage as opposed to performing for a microphone or performing for a camera. But the basics of it doesn't change. The basic attack of what you do as an actor, which is really to make real imaginary circumstances. I think that that's the best way of putting it. That in the creation of a character, whether it's on stage or on film or in front of a microphone, your job is to make the people listening believe you. So either I'm, taking up the best lying position I have, or I create a character in which I can believe and therefore make you believe that I am who I say I am. So acting is an interesting profession because you have to bring yourself to it at every moment. The more present you are, the better an actor you can be, I believe. And so it takes a lot of introspection. And also, you have to be the kind of person who's interested in a variety of topics, right? Because oftentimes the characters you're playing can be very far from who you are. So you have to dig deep, and that's what I love about it. I love the fact that I'm always learning, always adding, as opposed to subtracting from my life.
Really good way of putting it. So it doesn't really matter like if it's fun or challenging, like it kind of is remains it's sort of like the same process for every acting role that you perform.
The basic process is the same. That is, the preparation comes from external sources in the sense that you
Yeah.
receive a script or you receive a book that you have to read or you receive a sketch or something, and you bring yourself to it. You incorporate what's there in the script, and then you make interpretations. So, as well as being someone who brings my own experience, I also bring my own interpretation to it. For instance, when you're doing a play, you may be placed in a period piece, of which you know nothing, whether it be in the future or in the past. And so my job as an actor is to go and find out all I can about that particular character in that particular instance, place, time, and then bring to it my own personal quirks. And in with the help of a director and your fellow cast members, you come up with a whole, right? And so that process doesn't change, whether it's in film or in television. Sometimes you have more control on the stage than you do in a film because a film tends to be a director's medium or an editor's medium, whereas when you're thrust in front of a stage, you have to bring it every night. So the stage is different. And voiceover is kind of a whole different kind of technique because it's the relationship between you and either the cartoon or whatever it is you happen to be doing at the time and a microphone. So there's a lot more modulation, there's a lot more technique involved in voiceover than there is in, say, television or stage acting.
Yeah. And has there been, and I promise we'll definitely get to Sailor Moon in a bit, but uh,
Well, don't
what
worry
has been,
about that. I just thought that that was the one that people might know the best. That's all. I don't know
oh
who your
yeah,
audience is, so it's hard to.
it's so broad because I have some that are interested in VO, music, just
Oh,
many
great.
different, yeah. So that's why I'm just like, when it comes to different topics, I'm just like really all into oh, so what did you do on theater or like music? And I've had audio engineers on my show. It's a really wide. very
Good,
broad audience, which
good.
is, good.
I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear it.
Yeah. So what have been some of your most memorable? Like, I know you've said, yeah, you were talking about Sailor Moon and you mentioned Molly, but any other ones that kind of come to mind? And it can also apply to theater, on camera, everything.
Yeah, well, as I say, my first experience on television, that was really the one that formed my love of acting and my love of being able to take something and make it my own. Although it wasn't without its hurdles in the sense that when you're thrust into that position, the limelight becomes very interesting to you, and it has its good parts and its bad parts. But um, in television, I think that of late, I've been doing a lot of Hallmark movies. And so I find that that's a joyous part of my life at this point because I'm able to bring to it just fun and happiness. So I'm not taking on, I personally am not taking on anything that gives me too much worry or stress. In fact, I sort of try to stay away from all the stuff that looks a little violent or scary or anything like that because I just want to be able to put out things into the world that are a little happier these days. But as far as experiences on the stage, oh, I've had some great times, times when I can remember the set going up on in flames and not knowing what to do. And either that or missing an entrance or a door falling off, or, when you're doing stage, anything can happen. So it can be extremely exciting. Got to have your wits about you all the time.
We all know about those
For sure.
those stage. I mean, I would just see those on like YouTube and just all the musical theater just mishaps that would happen, fails, and it was yeah.
I wasn't a
I mean, you
musical
just gotta.
theater performer. I was just a straight actress, but I know that a lot of friends of mine who have done those intricate, Broadway musicals that have to just timed to the T, you have to be very careful. I mean, I think even, was it Spider-Man had to close on Broadway because it was
Oh my
so
God!
dangerous. That's
Yeah,
true. So
that's
these
right.
things happen. You do put yourself in the mouth of the lion, and you hope he won't
Yeah.
chomp your head off.
Oh God, yeah. I know they say the show must go on, but I'm just like, yeah. That's why
And that's
those
the other thing
improv
you do.
skills got to come in mind.
That's right. And
Yeah,
you do. I mean, you do the best you can, but anything can happen at any time. So you have to be prepared. You've got to be strong and weak at the same time, if you can believe it, vulnerable and strong at the same time.
yeah. Okay, so I gotta ask this.
Yeah.
So, because you've done some other voiceover work for cartoons, but did you work on the X-Men show? So,
Well, they tell me I did. I don't have any recollection of it, but I think I have done some X-Men. My friend Lenore Zan is out there doing the cosplay stuff. I know she's out there, but honestly, I've done so many that you have to remember that from an actor's perspective, they audition for something, they get it, and then they go in and they do the job, and then it has a life of its own, right? It goes off and people listen to it and you become associated with a certain character, but your life in the meantime has gone by and you go off and do other things, and then when people ask you about it, it's hard to sometimes place it in your own timeline because to me it would have been a job that day. And in the 80s when it was very very busy, voiceover was a huge part of a lot of actors' work in Canada for sure. And so there was a lot of work done around that time. So sometimes it's hard to remember exactly what you've done. I know I think I did Care Bears. I think I did Pokemon. I think I did The Wide World of Richard Scarry. I know I did. I don't know. I'd have to really go back and
yeah, it's quite a few, like Beyblade or
Beyblade.
something
That's right. I
like
remember Beyblade. Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
that was us. That was, I mean, that voiceover, people don't realize that we get the cartoon, say, from Japan, and it comes to you, and it's being dubbed into all kinds of languages, right? So there's these groups of people all over the world putting their own mark on that particular vision of what you're doing, right? So you are working in the studio with a director, a voice director, and a piece of tape, as it were, and you're just riffing. You're just working away. You've got words maybe, but all your intonations, all your is all you. So that character may have been dubbed into who knows how many languages, you know. I'm sure that there's a Molly in France and in Australia and all over.
Yeah. And speaking of which,
Yes.
that is just something that is like, yeah, I know. I said I was going to get to it. So, yeah, just tell us about the experience of getting to work on the show Sailor Moon and just the
So
overall impact it had on the audience.
So Sailor Moon, for instance, was one of the very first kind of girl power things, right? Now it seems a little old-fashioned, but in those days it was quite innovative, mostly because all the characters, most of the characters, were girls, they were women. And it was a bit risque in a way because in Japan, they were doing a lot more kind of X-rated stuff with those movies or that series. Then it got cleaned up a lot when it came to Canada because I think the North American market really wasn't ready for that kind of Japanese anime, right? So Molly was a character who was her best friend, and I know that in the original Japanese, she came from a different town or a different part of the country, and therefore she had a different accent. And therefore, when it came to me, I thought, well, let me make her from somewhere not where Sailor Moon is from. And so let me make her like someone from New York. So I put on a very strong New York accent. And that's who Molly became, the girl from New York. She was sort of upper middle class and lived with, and went to private school and, that kind of stuff. So that's when the interpretation of the character was left in my hands. And it went out that way into the world. So I don't know who Molly was, if other people were doing her. Because oftentimes you do this work and you don't necessarily hear it afterwards. But I know that Sailor Moon, to a certain generation of young girls, was very, very instrumental in who they became, and certainly how they how they faced the world in terms of their courage and their bravery. So I feel that it was a good thing to be a part of because I was sort of instrumental in giving girls their power.
So interesting because I also did an interview with Terry Hawks.
Oh
I think I
yeah,
did like two interviews with because she was Serena at Sailor Moon,
indeed. Yeah.
and she was just talking a lot about, just the aspect of the because I know that right now it's a very big niche in the anime market, but back then, like in the 90s, like early mid late 90s, it
Yeah.
was still just kind of like this new thing that was coming out because excuse me, because back in the day, because I remember the anime that we were getting was like Dragon Ball Z, you know, what's that one other show? Oh boy, I'm blanking on it. But it really was like, how Dragon Ball was for boys and then
Sure.
Voltron. Yeah, that's the other one. And we had a lot of other shows like that. And Power Rangers was also another big one
Yeah.
that was on Fox Kids way back in the day. 90s
Yeah.
kids, if you're listening to this, word up. But yeah, represent. So we had all of these shows coming out, and then Sailor Moon was kind of like this it just kind of came at a pretty interesting time because we didn't really have like a lot of shows that really, like you said, were like really centered on, but it still is. I don't really consider it as like, oh yeah, girl power, but it also meant it was a lot more to it because it shows like, um,
action.
the actual like characters that are just going through like, yeah, stuff that any teenager would go through at the time. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was kind of something similar with like the Powerpuff Girls, and then
Right.
soon enough we started getting Totally Spies that was
Sure.
also up in Canada. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of something that just kind of grew and expanded from there. It just
Yeah,
kind of
it's true.
evolved from there.
And so
Yeah.
I'd be interested, did as many boys watch Sailor Moon as girls did? Do you think?
Um, I mean, it was on Toonami, so of course, a lot of
Yeah.
the kids back then will probably get introduced to it, and not to say that they also got introduced to those transformation sequences, so
Yes,
when
that's
we weren't
right.
supposed to
But
watch them.
that's,
So
no, exactly. Those transformation sequences were a lot different in the American
yeah,
stuff than it was in the Japanese version. But at the time when we were doing it, I think I learned that subsequently. I didn't know that at the time. Like at the time, we were just doing our job. We were just working, at with what we had on the screen. And of course, all that work had been done previously by the time we
yeah,
got there. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
it was really fun to do. I don't remember actually how long we did it, but there seemed to be quite a lot of episodes of it. I don't really know how many, but and as I say, because Molly wasn't in every one of them, I was there a lot, but not as much as Terry might have been or anyone else who played her Sailor Moon, Serena herself. And then I did another one that was very popular at the time, maybe a little earlier than that. And it was called Beverly Hills Teens. And it was sort of like a 90210, except the kids were a little bit younger. Maybe they were, I don't know, they were just not like junior high-ish kind of things, cheerleader stuff. I don't even remember what the character was that I played, but it was popular too. Did you ever listen to that, Beverly Hills Teens? No, that may have
Uh,
been even before.
yeah,
You
that
might look
was
it
like
up.
way in the yeah.
Oh, you might
I
look it
was
up.
into like yeah, because in the 80s I know there was like Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joes. I mean, I'm from America, so I didn't really have like a lot of these. I mean, they did port the Canadian shows onto some syndicated networks, and I know that,
Yeah, I think they
yeah, we
did.
had
I
a lot
think
of
that one
shows at
was
the time. Yeah,
American. I mean, Beverly Hills Teens was Beverly Hills Teens, teens
yeah.
in Los Angeles.
I've seen the movie Beverly Hills. I think the live action one with Shelley Long, and yeah, it was a movie way back in the 80s. So
Right.
yeah, I remember seeing the live action
I
for
have to
sure.
just remember that way back in the 80s wasn't way back for me. It was like
Oh,
yesterday,
oh, yeah.
believe it or
Just
not.
like, yeah, just like how I'm just thinking about this show called Avatar: The Last Airbender that came out in like '05 or so. So it's like 20 years. No, man, 20 years is
I
just feels
can't
like yesterday for
believe
me.
that. I
Yeah.
can't believe that the 2000s was 25 years ago. I mean, that's just crazy to
2020,
me.
yeah. But trust
Yeah,
me, it still feels like it's yesterday.
yeah, for
Man.
sure. And you do voiceovers yourself.
Yeah, and like I said, 8 years really still feels like it. I haven't really started that long ago, so
Wow.
it's just
Wow, good for
crazy how
you.
time just goes by.
So
Yeah.
are you a friend of, say, Tara Strong's?
Uh, uh,
Did she do Powder Puff? She
yeah,
did.
she was Bubble. I mean,
That's
I
right.
did meet Tara at one point, but I can't, like I said, I'm just still somebody who's kind of like, because I've been doing this for a while, but I think I've come from the generation of like, say, like the people that are doing like the video game anime stuff, like, JoJo or like Persona, like these new video games that are just coming out, like FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's. So kind of like in that ballpark. But
Okay.
I can't really say. I mean, I have worked on some shows that I can't really disclose because NDA. So,
Sure.
yeah, but yeah, I don't want to say
But
from that
Tara,
generation,
Tara,
but
for
yeah,
instance,
Tara, yeah.
Tara is someone who is just brilliant at what she
Yeah,
does.
I know Tara. Yeah.
And she and I played her mom in a
Oh,
television series up here called Mosquito Lake.
oh
And
yeah. She did get
yeah,
her start in Canada. Yeah.
that's right. Well,
Then she
she's
moved to
Canadian.
LA. Yeah.
And then she moved to LA and she was determined even then, and she was only 12 when I knew her.
Yeah. I
She was
remember.
quite anxious to go, and she thought she'd make a go of it with in voiceover, and she's done brilliantly, and I'm so proud of her. Really, really
Yeah.
excellent, excellent work she does.
I mean, with the stuff that she's done over like the last 25, 30 years, I mean, Fairly Odd Parents, Teen Titans, My Little
Teen
Pony,
Titans, that's
uh,
right. That's
yeah,
right.
and you said Powerpuff, we mentioned Powerpuff Girls, so yeah, she's really been all over the place, and I'm
Well,
just really happy for her. Yeah,
we've sort of gone like that, right? At a time when would
yeah.
have looked up to me, now I look up to her. So that's the
Isn't
beauty of
that just
it.
really, isn't that just so amazing though?
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's a great equalizer in the sense that it's
Yeah,
all just about the work.
yeah. So when you do conventions, is that really the
Yeah.
time where you get to reconnect with the co-stars of Sailor Moon, or
Yeah,
just,
sometimes I don't go to them so much anymore. I went to one in
yeah,
LA a few years ago, and I find it
nice.
I find it very emotional, and I find that it's really very interesting for someone who's been in a studio doing just the voiceover, you, the director, and the picture, then to go out and meet the people who are listening to you and have their own conceptions of who you are. So I find it, I mean, the last one I did, I remember kids were they're so anxious to know you. And I find that I need the distance between myself and the persona so that I would like to keep myself separate from the persona, if you know what I mean. And then when you go into the cosplay stuff, you realize that they believe that it's one and the same. And to me, it's actually not one and the same. It's a job that I do.
Yeah.
So when I'm at the conventions and stuff, there's a kind of melding of things that is a bit uncomfortable for me. I don't know if other people feel that way. But you
I,
understand what I
yeah,
mean.
yeah. Because it's kind of like, there's the distinction between I play a character, and then there's the people that think you really are the character in real
That's right.
life, which, oh, no.
That's right. It's
No.
hard. It's hard, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes, and especially in this business, it's so important to remember that you are not what you do. You are
exactly.
who you are, and then what you do is separate from who you are.
Yeah.
Although you
Wasn't it?
bring the most of yourself to it. I'm not Molly. I'm not
Yeah,
this character. I'm not that character.
yeah,
It's a job.
yeah. Okay, it just hit me. Wasn't it Anime Expo? Because I remember they
Yes,
did like Sailor Moon. Yeah, they were
yes.
doing some Sailor Moon stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And I think that was the same one where they brought on the new team of the, while we were
2014.
there. It was
Yeah.
horrible. It was just, and nobody told us that this was going to happen. The old team. So we kind of felt like it was a bit of a joke or I don't, it was very odd. It was quite long time ago, and we stayed, I think it was at the Staples Center or something in LA. It was in a huge
S-
place
I think it was like the
or in a
convention center or
hotel.
something. Yeah, it was somewhere. Yeah.
But I was shocked. It was one of my very first ones that I went to, and I was just shocked at the number of people. Shocked.
Man. Yeah,
Interesting.
because it's just it's just like one of those conventions that is like, yo, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger like every single year. And it's like thousands, if not millions of people that go to
Yeah,
these. Like the
yeah,
San Diego, the Comic Cons,
yeah,
or just these conventions that are like literally around the world, like across the
yeah.
globe. It's humongous.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd rather be in front of a mic.
Yeah, I mean, I just got all this stuff behind me from like the
I
cons that
see.
I've been to over the years. Yeah, but it's mostly like Sonic. I did have a Sailor Moon poster somewhere. I don't know
Sonic
where.
is pretty
It's
big
somewhere in the
right
room.
now.
I'm sorry?
Sonic is pretty big right now, right?
Yeah, like it's about to go into its 30 anniversary. Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty huge. Yeah, that's also pretty big. Like they have like small fan conventions, and they have like stuff that is dedicated to this blue hedgehog. So yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's huge. But yeah, we'll probably conclude this in the next part. So if you enjoyed this so far, definitely let me know in the comments once this goes up. And yeah, do that YouTube subscribe mumbo jumbo. And I'll see you all in the finale. And
Thanks,
until then,
everyone, and stay safe.
thanks. Yeah, I'll see you in a little bit. All right. See. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, we've talked about Sailor Moon, conventions. Was there anything that really stood out to you from those sessions or just any memorable moments that you recorded for the show?
Well, I tell you what, I would do the character of Molly, but then the most fun was to do in a group session all the what we call walla, right? We
Or
love
ensemble?
doing,
Yeah.
yeah, we love doing that ensemble stuff because it starts to feel like improvisation, and so you get to riff off your fellow actors and when that's going on, that's a lot of fun. And then you realize that you can actually, go right over the top because it's really you just kind of imagining in your mind when someone is rolling down a hill, what sounds they might be making. So it's a really fun part of doing voiceover, I have to say. Like the character is one thing, but when you get to do the walla for that character, that's the most fun.
Yeah. I
Do you
also
enjoy
remember.
that?
Oh, sorry.
Do you
Oops.
enjoy doing the walla?
Uh, Whenever I get the chance to, I just usually get cast for a character, but I just don't
Ah,
really do like the extra, just ADR or just do any of the extra stuff. But whenever I get to do that, that's just to me, I was just thinking about this. The best moments where I get to just be weird and silly are just kind of the best moments where I could just pretty much let loose and then just go completely balls on the walls, as they say.
creative. It allows you to be
Yeah, being
creative,
creative. Yeah,
which is
exactly.
so important. I think people need that kind of outlet.
Yeah. I also remember like this one interview that you did on what was it? I know you did another one a couple of years ago on YouTube. I think it was like
Oh,
a Sailor Moon fan. Yeah. Oh, what?
no, I just don't remember. I know that there were some people who were interested in Sailor Moon specifically and would call
Yeah.
occasionally, and I would, answer questions for them. But I don't remember that particular interview. But I over the years I've done lots and lots of interviews.
Yeah. And I think you were kind of talking about like, was this your first time actually hearing about Sailor Moon when you got the job and, so on and so forth.
Oh,
But yeah,
I think I auditioned for the role though, so I must have been happy when I got it for sure. Because actors are
yeah,
always happy to have, yes, it's you I want. Because there's so much rejection in this business, You're
yeah,
vying against so many people all the time that when you get chosen for something, it's a great thing.
yeah. And how, I know it's kind of like a cliche question to ask, but did you really expect Sailor Moon to really explode the way it did in the
No.
90s and up until now?
Oh, no, 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 no. As
Yeah,
I said
I don't think
before in this
nobody would
interview,
expect. Yeah,
no, I mean, as I said before, you go in, you get it, you audition for a job, you get the job, you go in, you do the job. And then the beauty of it is, and the surprise of it is, and the joy of it is that people take it in, they love it, and you're there again to do more of it. So that was the pleasant part about Sailor Moon. It seemed to go on for a very long time because there were people who were interested in watching it. So the more they wanted to watch it, the more we did it, which was great. And then everything comes to an end, and I think that that's one of the things we learn as human beings, right? That you have to prepare yourself for that day when that's kind of in the past. You've done it in the past, and you can dine on it for a while. And occasionally I get the opportunity, even after all these years, to dine on it with you now, which is a great joy too. I appreciate it so much.
yeah. With so many interviews, podcasts that are being dedicated to this series, I mean, it's safe to say that. Oh, and especially since we just had the going on for like 30 years. I just realized that it's going to be like 30 years since since we got since it aired in America, coming
30
up.
years,
So
really. Wow.
yeah, like 95, I believe. I still remember very vividly.
Well, it must be that time of year. I just watched all of the SNL last night, the SNL
Oh
Saturday Night
my
Live
God.
50th. And
Yeah.
I knew a lot of the original people, right, from that.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see. And
So many of the original cast. Yeah. So
yeah,
many
and
cast.
having worked with Marty Short, and I did a thing years ago called Miss Peach, and it was a television series with live action and puppets, and we were both voices on that as well. So I sometimes I forget what I've done.
I mean, hey, like I was sometimes look, I just recorded auditions yesterday. I probably will not even remember it at this point.
Wow,
Because they say, just send it and then just forget about it. And then when you get an email, you're just pleasantly surprised.
for sure,
And
exactly
you're
right.
just kind of like, did I what did I
Which
do again?
one?
What?
Which one was that?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm like, which one even what is that?
how
What did
long
I
have
do?
you been doing it? Oh, you said 8 years.
Yeah, like since 2017. Yeah.
Well,
So
good.
pretty much consistently for 8 years. So
Great,
yeah.
great, great, great.
Yeah, and like I said, stuff that I still can't even disclose or talk about that are still in production. So yeah,
Well, we'll have to listen for them and keep our fingers crossed.
exactly.
They'll
But
do
yeah,
great.
just fingers crossed. And yeah, for those of you that are, I'll just plug at the end. But yeah, so for your recent stuff, like what is something that you've been kind of dabbling into as of late with your recent endeavors,
Well, I
aside
don't
fact?
dabble so much as I have a performing arts school for kids. And so we teach kids singing, dancing, and acting every Saturday for 3 terms a year. And at the end of the spring term, we do a big musical production with the kids. So I feel as though I've come sort of full circle. As a child actor, I want to be able to give the opportunity to other kids to have the kind of experience and joy that I experienced at that age while preparing them, even if they're not going to be professional actors, they will have learned a way of being in the world, which includes respect and appreciation of your fellow actor and just working in a team environment. I think that's so, so, so important, especially now.
What is something that is the most creatively fulfilling or rewarding about teaching a new generation of young actors that are just getting their start in the business?
I think it's the light that goes off in their eyes when they realize that they've accomplished something that they thought that they would not be able to do. For instance, in our school, we have lots of kids who come to us who are so shy that they won't put their hand up in school or respond to a question that a teacher asks. And after they've come to our school, which by the way is called Stagecoach, when they come to our school, they learn that they can be in an atmosphere where there's no judgment, where their creativity is free to be expressed, and that they learn from the courage that that gives them. So we teach kids to be brave, and we teach kids that everything has a consequence, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad consequence, that they can actually bring forth good things. And that's what's so rewarding for me is to watch kids make discovery.
Yeah, right on. And that in turn is kind of like it just really brings you back to when you're a child and it just still ignites the fire inside of you of like, yeah, this is why I just really love doing this every single day.
That's exactly right. You got it. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's just really wonderful. Just as a bookend of sorts, where you start out as a child actress, and then here you are teaching a new generation of child actors that are
Full
just,
circle. I feel it's
yeah,
full circle. Yeah.
yeah, it's just wonderful. So, yeah, I think we're pretty much just about we're now approaching the end of this. So, is there anything else that you want to share? Any upcoming
I just want to
some
wish everyone happiness when they watch cartoons or anything that they watch that is involving a creative enterprise, that they do it with joy and happiness, and that there have been others who've walked the same path, and that they shouldn't be afraid.
Yeah, and that would be your advice for anybody that also wants to get into acting or any creative
Of
profession?
course, of course. I would never ever say to someone, "Oh, don't do it because you can't make money, you can't make fame, you can't." The point is expression. And if you can find something that gives you satisfaction from expression, that's the most important thing because we're all here to better ourselves as we walk this path.
Right on. And where can people? Oh, I don't think you're on social media, are you?
I am, but I don't do my work
Yeah.
through social media or anything like that. I use it more like my morning newspaper more than anything. I don't use it to promote or to do anything like that. I think if people stumble over me, it's probably that's just as good.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any upcoming projects that we can disclose at the moment, right? Just want to make sure.
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. That's fair. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much, Mary, for joining me on this morning, or no,
Thank you
it's
for
afternoon on
asking.
your end. Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much for doing this. And let's see here. Would you like to do like a little? Because usually at the end of my show, I usually do like a little segment where the guests would just say, "Hi, my name is Mary Long. You've heard me in this, and this is Station Square podcast with Robert Jackson," or
Sure.
something like that. Yeah. So whenever you're ready. Take it away anytime.
Hi there. Hi from Canada. It's Mary Long. You might know me as the voice of Molly on Sailor Moon and various other projects, but I want to say a shout out to all the station podcast people. What's it called, Robert?
Oh, Station Square.
Station Square. Have a good day, everyone.
Perfect. And yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for watching and enjoy the holiday
Yeah,
if you
enjoy
can. Yeah,
President's Day.
yeah, Valentine's, if you got any late plan. I mean, it's never too late. You know what I'm saying? Better late than never.
Send a heart, send a chocolate.
Exactly. And I I'm sorry for asking, but can we hear a little Molly before we close?
I'm wondering if I can say, hi, I love shopping. Would you go shopping with me? That would be just great.
Amazing. I bet all the 90s kids are just rejoicing, just listening. So, yeah, thank you so
Enjoy
much.
your day, Robert. Thank you so much for asking.
Yep, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you all next time at Station Square. Bye for now, and have a good, lovely rest of your February. Whatever that, any plans you got, make the best, live out your dreams, be extraordinary,
That's
live long
it.
and prosper. Bye.
Bye.